HC Nation and History Heroes. Welcome back to the Adventure Box podcast, where we teleport back thousands of years and try not to step on these sacred fire altars along the way, right? Yes. I'm your host, Zach Edwards, and today we're heading back to the late Vedic period or so, the time period of the late Vedics. This is of ancient India, about 1000 BC to about 600 BC. It's a time of big ideas, big rituals, and a lot of forest clearing. Huh? That's right, forest clearing. We get to that. We will tell you when we get there. Okay. This episode will explore 4 things. First, how nomads became farmers in a lush Ganges basin. Second, the birth of social hierarchy. We started talking about it last week. It's the early form of the caste system. 3, mind-blowing philosophy. Like karma and moksha and the meaning of life, right? And how early Indian society was basically a mashup of Game of Thrones meets Farmer's Almanac. I'll get into it. Okay, my jokes are not covering very well, but they will. You'll understand them soon. So let's grab our iron tools, roll out our Vedic hymns, and step into an age of small kingdoms and big thoughts. So, first off, we will go with the nomads from farming, how they became nomads and farmers, okay? So, in a world where cattle were currency and rituals ruled the world, one basin changed everything. This is the Ganges River Valley. It's a big shift. This time, when they left the Indus Valley, when they came from the Indo-Aryan lands and came into India, they moved closer to the Ganges where they had fertile soils. I will get to the geography in just a second. In the early Vedic period, people were mostly nomads. They herded cows, they sang hymns, and traveled in tribes. This is, again, after the Neolithic era. Remember, the Neolithic era is when they started to gather together and they created the Indus Valley civilization. But then they left it for some reason. And again, things started to change. They went back to their nomad ways until they came to the Ganges basin. It was a fertile land. It was kissed by monsoons, and it offered excellent farmland everywhere. I got a picture. Check this out. You got to see this picture. This is a map of India. Look how green and lush it is. Here we go. We have the Ganges. Whoops. If I can spell it. Ganges River. There it is. Okay. Up here near the Himalayas. Now the Ganges actually comes from the Himalayas and brings fertile water. Not fertile water. Water and fertilizer down to the basin, down to this area. See how green it is? Very lush and green. Very nice. Here, I got pictures. These are actual pictures of what the Ganges looks like nowadays. Not like in the past. Oh, we have a video. Cool, I want to see video. I was not planning on this video, so I am quite excited. Did you see the thatch house? That was a thatch hut. It's just the roof of it, but you can see it was very good. Okay, let's keep going. Look how green and lush it is. Now, very rocky, very hilly, but also had much farmland in this area. Oh, and look, people bathing in it. Actually, yeah, they did bathe in it, which was not exactly the cleanest, but the Ganges moves quickly, so they weren't too worried about sanitation anymore. So you went from sanitized houses and bathhouses with underground sewage to bathing in the river. Interesting. Why would they do this? I do not know. You do not know. We were not here. Neither were the archaeologists and the historians. We just do the best we have. Okay. Let's see if any more pictures. Wait. Here we go. Pictures. More pictures. Look at all those pictures. Those are what it looks like today. Oh, this is two rivers meeting up. Look at that. Oh, very nice. At night. Oh, here we go. Here's another video. Love those videos. The beaches of the Ganges. Look how green and lush it is. It's because all the water comes from the Himalayas. Breaks down the rock as it comes by. All those minerals come down and then get into the soil. And from the soil, you plant in that soil and you make very nutritious meals of wheat and rice and other grains. It's great. Okay, let's drop these videos. Okay, we're done with videos. No more videos. Back to India. Okay, so came to the Ganges basin right about here from the Himalayas, which are right here. Okay, now where was I? Oh, yes, but it was covered in thick forest. So when they came to the Ganges, they had to, what? Use their new iron tools and cut down all those trees. This is what I was saying. It was about deforestation during this time, about 1000 BC. With the rise of iron technology, people could clear forests and start building permanent settlements all throughout India. It was great. It was a great time for them. Maybe that is why they left. I still think it's the bureaucrats. I always blame it on the bureaucrats. They screw up everything. It's horrible. Even in DC. Okay. And so began the age of agriculture and village living. Village life. It was great. And the slow disappearance of, say, phases like, let's follow the cows. You know, nomads, they follow cows and follow the herds. Wherever they go, the nomads go, they settle down. And it became the Neolithic era again, basically. But now it's become less the Neolithic, now into the Iron Age. As more land was cleared, though, villages grew. Grain became a new wealth. Cattle still mattered a great deal, but now they could rely on rice and grains and everything else. But why were cows now more important? Because they actually used them for plowing with the metal plows, the iron plows. You could plow through the earth and then drop seeds in that area. This is why the cattle were so important at this time. Not less for food, more for work. Okay, let's see. Also, the towns. They had markets, they had storage, they had workshops. They started popping up everywhere. So from this very planned out city and civilization in the the early Indus Valley civilization, to India, where the villages were scattered everywhere. There were no more sewers, and you bathed in the river instead of the bathhouses. I guess it's okay. It's not a horrible thing. It was the birth of the rural economy, with just enough urban flair to make things interesting. Okay, so jokingly aside, no, I want to tell. Okay, so let's have some fun. So the next time you complain about raking leaves, just remember, or mowing the lawn. Yes, or mowing the lawn. Raking leaves or mowing the lawn. Your ancient ancestors were literally clearing forests with iron axes to grow rice. Now, let's talk about who's running these new villages and who's not. This is what we call, like we talked about last time, the Varna system. This is a caste system, which means you have the people at the top that are being served by the people on the bottom and everybody else in between. To recap what we talked about last Thursday, the Varna, or the caste system, the social classes, started off with the Brahmin. They were the priests, the scholars, masters of ritual, sacred texts, and telling everyone else what to do. Then you had the warrior class. This was the Kshatriya. The Kshatriya were the warriors and the rulers. So the priests were above the rulers. Basically, the Vedic action heroes with swords and with sacred oaths. Then you had the Vaishyas. The Vaishyas were farmers, merchants, and artisans, quietly running the economy while everyone else chanted. Yep, basically, except for the Shudras. The Shudra, they were laborers and servants. They were on the lowest class, the lowest caste. So, they supported society from the bottom, often without much recognition. Unlike we talked about with the Indus Valley, the farmers were very well recognized. Nowadays, not so much. They basically worked for the other upper three castes. So not very good for them. Now, it was not rigid. It was more fluid. You could actually increase your status over time, based partly on occupation and not always birth. But over time, the Varna would become more of a caste system. It became hereditary, which means it became, if your parents were this class, this caste, you were this caste, and so were your kids going to be this class, and you will never change. But things have changed a little bit over time. But it was much harder to climb up later on as it was during this ancient time. It was a little bit easier for them to climb up and become rulers if you're the lowest. Or, you know how you, here's a little joke. Okay, you know how you become the highest, most important person in India? You stop doing anything. And you chant, hum, and you meditate, hum. The more enlightened you are, the more you are at the top of the caste system. So if you are the lowest of the low, and you want to get up, you may be able to become a monk and become highest on the caste system. Doesn't always work that way. But if you were a ruler, and you said, I want to be the most powerful, all you had to do was give up all your worldly possessions. Who do you give it to? The other monks. That's right. You dedicate all your land, all your wealth. Go. It's all yours. Or you walk away from it. Well, I know the monks would rather have you give them everything, and then they would distribute as they will. But sometimes the royalty who decided to become the enlightened ones, they would just walk away. I'm done. And they go in and sit under a tree and meditate on the questions of life. And maybe drink some soma. Yes, the drink that gives you hallucinations and visions and everything else. Okay. But I digress. Let's go back to what I was talking about. Imagine being born a Vaishya and wanting to become a priest. Now remember, a Vaishya, what was a Vaishya? A Vaishya was the farmers, the merchants, and the artisans. Now, you want to become a priest. Today, you take an online course, right? You go online and get a license, print, done. That's here in the United States. Not much work. Back then, you'd be told, nice try, friend, go plow a field. What? Yeah. So, early on, you could make it out of there. But when the caste system became very rigid, you might try to become a priest, but they'd say, nice try, friend, go to the plow of the field. And you had to go back and work in the same caste system that you were born into. Not very nice. Not very nice period. Now, we also talked about the Vedas last time, but now we're going to be talking about the Brahmins and the big question. What's the big question? Well, on your mind, what is the biggest question? We'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so let's talk texts. Yes, everyone loves reading books. It's so amazing for everyone. No, I hate reading books. It was not my favorite thing to do when I was a kid, when I was younger. Now I read for knowledge. I want knowledge. I want to read. Back then, not so much. So, there are some later Vedic texts besides the Veda, the Rig Veda. At this point, there was the Suma Veda, which was musical chants. Ancient India's original Spotify playlist. There was also the Yajur Veda. Yajur Veda was ritual instruction, like IKEA's manual, but with fire sacrifices. Okay. Then there was the I see, Atharva Veda. This was spells and charms and prayers, half spiritual, half magical incarnations. Cool. That sounds interesting, right? Maybe not. I don't know. But then became the Brahmins. These were the ritual explanations, and the the Upanishads, which dropped some serious mic drops in their philosophy. Yeah, this was amazing. Okay, so the Upanishads had some big ideas. These texts that they wrote down basically asked these big questions, but didn't really give you much of an answer. They went around the answer, but never really answered the question, such as, what is life? Why are we here? And how do we escape suffering? I want to know how we escape suffering. That sounds good. Yes, let me sign up for that one. What is life? I think living here. This is great. I love these. I actually like working. It is fun. And the answers to their questions. This is how they answered these questions. Karma. Your actions shape your future. Okay, so I'm a not so nice person. I'll have not so nice returns. Okay, if I'm a really nice person, I will have very nice returns. At the same time, I will have not so nice ones as well. And it just happens. We're human. Then we have samsara. Samsara was the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Reincarnation, a cosmic merry-go-round where you keep going back to the earth and living new lives. You may be a ruler, and if you're not good, karma happens and you become a cockroach. That's not very nice. Okay, then there's the moksha. Now this was liberation from the cycle. Thinking of a spiritual graduation. I'm done. I'm out of here. Goodbye. And there you go into the cosmos. No future for you. But if you stay in the cycle, you continue to live. Okay. So, you want some mind-blowing information? Okay. It's like ancient India looked at the cosmos and said, let's try to explain everything using poetry, metaphors, and fire rituals. And that's what they did. They tried to explain everything, and most of the time didn't explain anything. But I digress. So, as in, when I say they didn't answer anything, I mean the utmost respect. They didn't answer because they want you to answer. That is their main point. They want you to internalize the information and make it work in your life. So, next came the Janas and the Janapadas. The Janapadas, got to learn about them. So kingdoms without kings. Okay, so let's talk early politics. Not democracy yet. Not empires yet. Think clans with ambition. The Janas were tribes. They were just groups that would walk around doing things, settle down, still tribes. People still live in extended family groups known as the Janas. Often ties by kinship and by shared rituals. Each jana was led by a raja. You know, Aladdin? Not true. Well, okay, it had some truths, but not true. Not a king yet. Now the raja becomes like king, but at this point, not. More like leader of the pack, of the tribe, but not ultimate ruler. Not like tribal chief or war leader. The Raja protected the people, led raids and wars, and performed key rituals to keep cosmic balance. Okay, so basically a social approval. Now the Janapas, they were the proto-kingdom. This is basically before the kingdom. Around the year 600 BC, some of these Janas, remember the tribes, had grown into Janapadas, early tutorial states. Remember city-states? We have them in Persia, we have them all over the place. These were not centralized kingdoms yet, though, unlike those other ones, but they controlled specific regions. They built armies. They collected tribute and maybe a little tax. Yeah, little lucre. Give me money. If you were unlucky. Most Janapadas emerged around the Ganges and the Yamuna region, where agriculture flourished, and everyone suddenly wanted a bigger granary? Yeah. So they wanted to be able to sit down, create a kingdom, and settle with more storage and more leadership and such. So imagine dozens of mini kingdoms all saying, we totally in charge now. We are totally in charge now. While eyeing each other's across the river with suspicious chance. I'll tell you apart. So, you remember on Aladdin? Okay, the new one, the action one. I love that one. It's so great. I really like Will Smith. He's amazing. So, now, you have, in that story, you have Jafar, the evil priest, who the Raja was actually in control at this point. Now, the classes actually change where the ruler becomes more powerful than the priest. But Jafar tries to get the Raja, to attack the neighboring city, which was actually, there's Aladdin and there's Jasmine. Jasmine's mother's homeland. And it was just like across the river. And Jafar was trying to get him to attack so they become bigger. Because Jafar wanted more power through the Raja. Now, this is interesting because, think of it, many kingdoms all over the place. Basically owning one city, like the Raja in Aladdin. He owned, what was it? Aqraba. That's the one. So, now again, Disney, not very correct. But they did get some things right. So, let's reflect on the things we talked about today. Okay. So first off, we talked about, well, let's see, where did we start? We started with, oh yes, that's right, the Ganges Valley blooming. So, we had people in the Indus Valley leaving the society, leaving the civilization, that civilization crumbling. We had the Indo-Aryans coming in, all of them moving, oh, actually, I have this picture. Moving from the Indus Valley, right here, in east, towards the Ganges basin. And this began to bloom, mostly with people. Thanks to what? They were able to clear the land, clear the trees, plow the fields with iron tools, iron technology, and a whole lot of pluck. Okay, the Varna system began defining the roles in society. That's a caste system, remember? Varna caste system. You had the highest up, the priests, and the lowest down, the servants. And you had the merchants above that, and then you had the rulers and warriors. The army, they were second from the top. So then the question is, could you become, from a servant, could you become a military person and climb the ranks? You'd be second in the caste system. I don't know. I wasn't there. But most of the time, later on, they'd say, it's rigid, you born here, you stay here, you die here. But early times, you could actually work your way up, less rigid. The Vedas and the Upanishads gave us karma, samsara, and moksha. Remember, karma is what you do, you get back. Samsara is you die and you, okay, I gotta go back through my notes exactly what these were. I think I have it, but okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Samsara was the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Yeah, so I was right. Okay. So depending on how you did in your karma, that's where you were born again in the samsara. And then you had the moksha, which was basically the liberation from that cycle. No more spiritual graduation. Bye-bye. So, Yes, we went over that. Then the last things we went through was the Vedas. Oh, no, sorry. Was the Janapadas, or the Janas first. They were the tribes. And then early India was full of Janapadas, which were the mini kingdoms. You have one town, that's your kingdom. You have Agrabah, that is one kingdom. And you have the neighboring one, which is their own kingdom. And you can attack and try to take that, or you live in peace with all these other kingdoms. And you share marriages, you share trade food, all these things. They had many big ideas. Now, the later Vedic period was about settling down, asking deep questions, and organizing societies in ways that would shape India for millennia. It was not the age of empires yet, but it was the seeds that were sown before that got them going. So thank you for chanting, philosophizing, and plowing with me today on the Adventure Box podcast. I am Zach Edwards, your clan-approved guide of the past, reminding you that history is more than just kings and battles. It's also cows and karma and communal fire ceremonies. Yes, because I'm a pyro and I like lighting fires. And I can send a few messages to the gods by doing that. Next time, though, we'll explore the rise of the Mahajapadas and the birth of Buddhism, Hinduism, which is basically, at this point, this is where Hinduism starts. So, but next time we will talk about Buddhism and Jainism and why some ancient Indian kings just couldn't stop conquering. So until then, stay curious, stay humble, and as always, keep questioning. Hey, wait, don't leave. Do not leave. We're not done. We got one more thing, very important, action question. Okay, so last time I asked you, where would you see yourself in the caste system? But now I'm going to ask you, would you have rather been in the Indus Valley civilization with the plumbing and the two-story buildings and all those things? Or would you rather be in the villages that were speckled throughout the Ganges River, the Ganges Basin? Or would you want to be part of the Janas, which is the tribes, like families that come together and make groups, or the Janapadas, which are the mini kingdoms like Agrabah? Please let me know. I want to hear. So put them in the comments below. Let me know. You can email me as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time on this Adventure Box podcast. Until then, have a great day, and please keep chanting. Hum. If you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye.